David, why don't we start with the grim news out of Syria that we got earlier this morning?
Joe, it is grim. This morning at 6:30 a.m. Syria time, it's reported that Turkish troops were preparing for invasion, but more important, that U.S. troops that had been protecting the frontier between Turkey and Syria began withdrawing as part of a deal that was made last night between President Trump and the Turkish President Erdogan for this American retreat. For me, I've been watching the situation in northeast Syria now for several years. This is a potential tragedy in which there could be great loss of life. We had a stable situation in which there was a degree of security and stability in northeast Syria thanks to U.S. advisors working with our Syrian Kurdish allies. Let me note, our Syrian Kurdish allies, the figures that were given to me by their commander several months ago, have lost 11,000 killed, 24,000 wounded in their fight against ISIS. These are the people who fought and died on the battlefields to destroy this terrorist menace. What did they get as thanks for it? They get pressure from Turkey to dismantle the U.S. advisory mission, and then this morning, it appears, the Turkish invasion. The Kurds will go to fight at those front lines. The potential for bloodshed and instability is enormous. And just one more thing, Joe and Mika. There are approximately 2,500 foreign fighters who have been held in camps protected by Syrian Kurdish fighters. These are the hardest of the hardcore ISIS. Of them, there are perhaps 1,000 Europeans ready to stream back into Europe and begin new terrorist operations there. Who's going to guard these camps? The White House announcement last night, incredibly, said they would be guarded by the arriving Turkish invading forces. We should all recall that Turkey was the country that allowed these fighters to get into Syria in the first place. So it's really a series of catastrophic events.
Yeah, it is a series of catastrophic events. And Mika, if you tie everything together, you look at the president who actually several weeks ago threatened to release all of those hardened ISIS fighters and send them back to Europe. And of course, as David said early on, all of those ISIS fighters got into Syria, a majority of them got into Syria through Turkey. And for too long, Turkey was not doing anything to help in the fight against ISIS. So here, it started with Barack Obama. It continued through the Trump administration. We defeated most of ISIS. There's still remnants there. And the Pentagon warned last month that ISIS could very well rise again. And Donald Trump seems to be doing whatever he can do to help that happen. We don't understand why. Of course, we don't know what phone calls Donald Trump had with Turkey's leader Erdogan, and if you judge his phone calls that we do know about with Ukraine, with China, then there's no reason to believe that anything Donald Trump is doing in this case is in the United States' best geopolitical interest. And Mike Barnicle, certainly on the face of it, this is only good news for ISIS, good news for Iran, good news for Vladimir Putin, good news for Erdogan.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. And to David's point, and David, maybe you can ask or add some more information to this. We realize it's very early in this ongoing story, but do we have any sense? We have a new chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley. Do we have any sense of whether the Joint Chiefs were involved in this decision, whether the intelligence community was there prior to the call being made to Erdogan, and the role that you think Russia might play in this going forward?
Mike, those are all the right questions, and I don't have answers. I know that General Milley did have a conversation in the last 2 days with his Turkish counterpart. They're the same kinds of conversations in principle that his predecessor, General Joe Dunford, had regularly. I think, Mike, the point to underline is that President Trump has wanted to get these American troops out of Syria going back to December of last year. That's why Secretary Mattis quit He just couldn't stomach the decision. He thought we were, as he said, I'm not going to lose the first war, Mr. President. You'll have to find somebody else. And he said in his letter of recommendation, how we get from there to here is something that we'll all be reporting. But I just would say to your viewers, I began last night around 10 o'clock, 9:30 to hear reports from people who were in touch with the Kurds that were just frantic. They were being informed. Our Kurdish allies who fought and died with us were being informed that American troops would be pulling out the next morning on orders of the White House. Imagine how that felt if you're an American commander working with these folks to help, destroy ISIS, save lives, and you have to go tell them, sorry, we're out of here.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.